Hello, you're very welcome to AFI Weekly here on the Under Centre podcast. Darragh, which you joined by Alex this evening at a slightly later time than usual, of course, at 8:30. Alex, we've had a week off. The search for both of us, hoping we're still alive, is up. They know that we're still here. We know that we're still here to talk AFI. So all is right in the world again.
Yep, absolutely. We're all back in business at a slightly later time, but just life gets in the way sometimes, doesn't it?
That's it. That's it. And especially when it comes down to these sort of weeks where you have games back to back, so there's team calls and everything you just can't get out of. Just sometimes sometimes you just have to take that back seat. And look, we're not the only ones that have not been able to um, talk AFI in these past few weeks. A few other shows haven't been able. It just shows how busy when you get in close to playoffs and everything like that. When everything ramps up, it just takes more attention away from the other things that you love doing, like chatting with you on a weekly basis about everything AFI. And we have 5 games to look back at from this past weekend: 2 in the Premier Division, 3 in uh, Division 1. Some cracking amount of points scored this past weekend with one team in the Premier Division. Um, well, actually, 2 teams breaking 50, another team breaking 40, another team breaking 30 points, and then a few others breaking 20. So points galore. We have gone past that stage of the season where teams are winning 8-0 and 11-4.
Yeah, exactly. We've seen big scores across the league this week and last week as well. We obviously missed the show last week, but it was a big scoring week last week as well. So yeah, look,
Yeah.
just great to see the points flying in and entertaining the crowds.
Mm.
Mostly good weather this time of year. Not really, but it's good weather to get out and catch a game. And yeah, you're guaranteed points. Not like back in the day. I was looking back in the archives earlier. I was looking at 2014 UCD nil Meath Bulldogs 2, like final score. The UCD have come a long way since then, and so is scoring and the passing game in particular in the league. So great to see, and long may it continue.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I wonder, Alex, do you enjoy seeing games with so many points scored, or is the defender inside of you wincing a little bit at the amount of points defenses are conceding at the moment?
No, I mean it depends a little bit. Obviously, you don't like to see terrible defensive play, but if you're being beaten by an offense that's better than you, or they just run a play that perfectly counteracts what you do, I've always been someone who just like you get up off the floor, you shake the hands of whoever beats you, and it's like nice score, nice catch or whatever it is, and you don't dwell on it too much. So yeah, I think good offense can beat a good defense, and that's not necessarily a negative thing.
Hmm. Absolutely. Let's then get straight into the action from this past week, and we'll start with the Premier Division. And I say probably the biggest, not eyebrow raising, but definitely the biggest impact on playoffs from the weekend, and that is the Belfast Knights 7, the Dublin Rebels 22. The Rebels go up to Belfast and get a vital win in their hopes for making it into the Shamrock Bowl playoffs. And the Knights side of things, their score a lone score, sorry, I should say, came from Liam Moores connecting with Dottie McShane. For the Rebels, it was Sam Doran connecting to Jack Cronin. Joe Krause had 2 rushing touchdowns on that as well too. I say it's such a crucial one because obviously with the the Knights, the Rebels, and the Admirals, and and we'll get into them in a few minutes' time with their win against the Cowboys. It's put a huge shift in the placings when it comes to the playoffs this year. A team in the Knights that we kind of you know, you wouldn't have been, you would be forgiven for thinking that they were signed, sealed, delivered into the playoffs after the previous wins this year. But, this loss against the Rebels has really put a cat amongst the pigeons here.
100%. We rightly gave this Knights team their flowers early and in mid-season when they were flying, putting up good scores, and picking up some great wins. But this result is probably a little bit worrying for them. Like the Rebels did have to win. Like it was a must win for the Rebels, so you could see there being more motivation there. Whereas the Knights have another game against a direct rival for a playoff spot to seal it. So there wasn't as much pressure on them. So that could be a reason for the Rebels, uh, coming out with a bit more want in this game. But I think for the Knights, the main thing I'd be looking at is I see Liam Moores was back in at QB there. He obviously had the injury earlier in the season, came back, was out again and back in. I think that kind of chopping and changing your QB is never a recipe for success, or certainly rarely is in any league. So I wonder, is that is that the cause for some of their offensive struggles of late? Do they need to just pick one, stick with him, say he's the starter for the rest of the season and go like that, or you know, is there merit to what they're doing? I think that's a question that has to be asked. What do you?
Yeah, chopping and changing is never great. I don't know the reasoning behind it. Like, do they want to continue to get Zach more reps at quarterback because he had shown in the games that he's a really good up and coming quarterback, and he is able to play that position very well. Um, it seems as though going into the season, Liam was going to be the starter, but and I think that's still going to be the case going forward. But maybe the fact that like he was not able to get himself, not ease himself into the season, but an injury right at the start, the like your very first game of the season, like the first quarter as well, he hurt himself too. That really puts you out of shift. That really gets you your momentum from all of your preseason training. It's gone. So you kind of have to go through a kind of your own mini preseason in that case when you're coming back. And when you're doing that in the middle of the season, it's never going to work out the way you hope, because you pretty much have to play through the bad form. You really have to play through the bad, the chemistry maybe that you have to rebuild up with your wide receivers and with your line and your running backs. And in a league like this, in like a season that has as little games as it does, as you can see here, that like we mentioned, they were 4-2 going into this game, and it just shows that there's absolutely no room for error. And I
Yeah,
think it's a tough one for the Knights and the coaching staff for the decision to make, in terms of like, yes, we have a golden opportunity here with the issues, you could say, or like the turnover from other teams that were probably stronger than them in the division, gives them a chance to make it into that playoffs, and the fact that they were there all season. Like, what do you do here? Do you keep pushing Liam to try and get better and better and sacrifice or live with whatever happens in terms of make playoffs, don't make playoffs? And I'm not going to say that Liam's not going to get them to the playoffs if you play him, because he has shown that he can and does play well. It's just it's such a tough decision. I wouldn't want to be in that coaching
yeah,
staff, or trying to make that
100%.
decision whether or not.
Yeah, no, you're 100%. I mean, like I said, it's not Liam's fault. Like Liam
Yeah,
started being the starting QB in 3 games this season, and none of them consecutive. So you mentioned at the start of the show, like this is the part of the season where offenses are humming. Well, how can you be humming when you've had that sort of inconsistency in whether you're starting uh, or not? So it is it's a massive decision, and it could be a decision that means the Knights make the playoffs or not.
yeah,
So yeah, definitely wouldn't want to be making it myself. But look, um, that's one of the joys of football, isn't it? The sort of these sort of chess moves you have to make, or make those
yeah.
decisions. I wouldn't like to be the head coach in the situation. But they'll have to make the decision, and we'll see how it plays out next
Yeah.
weekend when they take on the
And for the
Admirals.
Rebel, yeah, for the Rebel side of things, they're on the back of two defeats, two narrow defeats against playoff hopeful teams, going down to Cork and losing by a score, what should have been a home game against UCD, having to move it to play it in UCD and only losing by a point in the end. Um, you know, any other team with a sort of weaker mentality would have probably said, right, that's us for the playoffs this year. Let's just try and get, maybe things roll and see what happens. For them to go up to Belfast and to put in the performance that they did, and like I said, put them right in contention for that playoff spot with one game left against UL and at home. And no disrespect to UL, but the Rebels will be looking at this game and thinking, we win this game and we're pretty much in for the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely huge win for the Rebels. They've, Sam Doran, the QB, has really come along as the season's gone along, and he's got some good connections now, certainly with Jack Cronin and Gussin especially. So I mean, it's just, have they left it too late to sort of fully gel? Those near losses that they had, if they could have turned those into wins, they'd be locked into a playoff spot right now. But as it stands, it's not even within their hands. They can beat UL by a cricket score, and they might still miss out on the playoffs depending on how the result in Cork goes. So I mean, they
Mm-hmm.
could, and they'll go into that game knowing what the results has been of that one. So it kind of, there's no sort of uh, single day drama, last day drama there, where you could be like, we go live to Cork and get the update from the Rebels game, but which is unfortunate for the bit of drama. Everyone would be
Yeah.
glued to the Instagram stories of Under Center.
Well, that
Uh,
would have been great, because obviously you would have, with the soccer, you would have had Gillette Soccer Saturday. We could have had like
yeah,
a Brennan's football Sunday. We
absolutely.
could have
Just
had reporters at every ground.
panning to me, being like, "There's a touchdown in Cork." You what, Dara? Sorry, I must have missed it.
Yeah, and we'll get into the permutations of what has to happen when we look ahead to this weekend's games. But like I said, yeah, the for a start to the season that they've had in terms of people writing them off, and I will admit at certain stages this year I thought top four was definitely out of the question for them. Maybe they could have finished fifth or sixth, get a home Shield playoff game, and then see what happens there. But credit to the coaching staff, credit to the guys there that have stuck in and really played well throughout the season. And we'll see, like I mentioned, next game for both teams, the Knights are at the Admirals uh, this Sunday, and the Rebels face UL the following Sunday, June the 22nd. On to the other game in the Premier Division, and that was the Craigavon Cowboys 12, the Cork Admirals 55. For the Cowboys side of things, Cottle McGuinness had a 96-yard rushing touchdown. His first game, actually, since graduating from the youth squad. So congratulations to Cottle on that. Austin Ramsey also had a kickoff return for a touchdown. On the Admiral side of things, it was the Kennedy show. Ben Kennedy rushed for five touchdowns, I should say. Jay Kennedy had 3 rushing touchdowns. John Decini had 3 2-point conversions, and Dan Shetty had a point after touchdown conversion. To the Admirals, we said we said it through the season. We want to see more from the offense. We got it this week against the Cowboys. They let their ground attack do the damage, and my God, they did some damage to the Cowboys.
Yeah, absolutely. When Ben Kennedy comes in, it's almost like the strength of one Kennedy strengthens the other Kennedy. We've seen Jake light it up on the ground as well. It's really great to see. As you said, we've been asking to see it all season, and maybe sort of suggested that the points that we're putting up were not going to be enough to put it up to a playoff team, or sorry, not a playoff team, but one of the top two, Belfast or UCD. So it's great to see them finally break it loose. It couldn't have come at a better time. They've got one more game now, which is a crucial game, although again, we're going to get into the permutations later, so I don't think it will have a bearing on them. The Admirals are playoff bound potentially, but it's good preparation. They've got another game that they'll want to avenge their narrow loss that they had up in Belfast when the Knights come down to Cork. So I think it will be one they'll have a lot of focus on and won't be letting up. And yeah, then if their offense is humming like this, who knows what could happen come July 5th for those playoff games.
Mm-hmm. And the Cowboys side of things, obviously, we didn't get to chat about their previous week's game against the Vikings, which they lost, which kind of meant at the moment they are the favourites to go down at the bottom of the table on 2 points. It's been a tough season for them. Players have gone that were integral to them getting promoted last year. Injuries haven't played their part too. They've been absolutely decimated on a team that had already, a little short on players sorry, difference making players to have some guys go out that have. It's just been a season that the lads will want to just finish as quickly as they can and just try and rebuild for next season, whether that is going to be in the Premier Division, whether it's going to be in Division 1. It doesn't get any easier for the guys. Their last game on the 22nd of June is at home to the defending Shamrock Bowl champions UCD. So it's win or get relegated for them in that sense. But in terms of the season overall, it's one that they would probably love to forget.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's never an easy one when you come up to the SBC and play it. I mean, the Mavs went 0-8 when we did it back in 2018. So it's not an unfamiliar feeling to me. You get promoted to the SBC, you're going to be going up against the best of the best in the country. And that's what they've done this season. And look, it hasn't come out their way, but I think they've all performed admirably. They've played every game to the end, and always sort of thought, well, there was an ambulance issue against the Rebels, meant that game didn't go the full 4 quarters, but they never give up, and we wouldn't expect any less of them. I know that they'll whoever's fit and available will be going full steam against UCD, and I know talking to one of the lads there, he's already said that he wants to face UCD's top squad. Doesn't want to see just the second and third stringers out there, because that's what you want. That's what you do when you get to the top division. You want to play against the best of the best and put yourself up against it and take those lessons that you learn in a season like that and build it into strengthening the foundation of the team and building for the next generation of a team that can try and win the Division 1 and go back up again, because that's what we're all aiming, is to play football at this level. So every bit of experience you can get at the level, you got to take it with both hands and use it to whatever advantage you can, either now or for the future, like the Cowboys will be doing so.
Yeah. And with this win, should mention with the Admirals as well. Now, and what happened with the Knights and the Rebels game. Now, I've tried to do my maths. Alex, I've asked you too, and I've got it confirmed by you as well. But I think the win and the Knights loss has put the Admirals as a lock for a playoff spot. Not lock for what position yet. It still could be third or fourth, because obviously with them now on 8 points, 4 and 3. The Knights are also on 4 and 3. So Knights are ahead of them on head-to-head at the moment, obviously, like you mentioned, with their 11-4 victory earlier on in the season. The Rebels are on 3 and 4, 6 points. But the best that the Rebels can do is get to 8 points, the same as the Admirals. But the Admirals have the head-to-head on them, and the Admirals play the Knights. So there has to be a result in that game. So not all 3 teams can finish on the same amount of points. So it will come down to head-to-head on either the Admirals game. And the Admirals and Rebels, I should say. But if the game was to be a draw between the Knights and the Admirals, both teams would be on 9 points. The Rebels can't reach that. So I think that locks the Admirals. I know it's a lot of information, but I think that locks the Admirals in for playoffs.
Yeah, sounds complicated, but I think you
Yeah,
nailed it.
yeah,
Cork in, unless, of course, as I posited before, if for some reason they were to forfeit this game against the Knights and get deducted a point, then they would not
yes,
be in the playoffs.
yes,
But that
or
does seem an unlikely occurrence, especially because it's at home. Maybe if it was in
yeah,
Belfast, you could be like bus breaking down or something, but you got
yeah.
to be pretty safe playing at home.
Especially if it's their family fun day this weekend, so you're definitely going to be playing that game for sure.
Yeah, well, they
So
can start the
it looks
family
as though
members. They can start the
that
family members if they
that's
want,
it.
because I mean, maybe get a few more Kennedys in there. The dad could be good. I don't know.
Hey, listen, it says
Sisters,
Ben
anyone.
Kennedy. It doesn't say which Ben Kennedy.
Absolutely,
You
absolutely.
know.
Because it doesn't matter.
Uh,
they're in the
uh,
playoffs. They've got that locked. But I'm sure they'll be going for a win, and the Knights will be coming down to play. And of course, being
absolutely.
that it's their family day, they'll be wanting to entertain the crowds as well. So another
Yeah,
55-point display would definitely thrill the audience.
yeah, yeah. And now the Knights have a win and in scenario, a lose, and they need a big favor from UL to stop the Rebels from taking their place in the playoffs. So again, we'll get into that sort of when we review the games coming up this week. Into Division One, we'll talk about the games there. Let's start with the Dublin Rhinos 59, the Causeway Giants 20. On the Rhino side of things, Greg Usher had 3 rushing touchdowns on the day. Owen O'Donoghue and Ethan Foster both had a rushing touchdown each. Kevin Kelly connected with Richie Grimes for a passing touchdown. Valera Sayarchuk, uh, Val, I'm very sorry. I know I asked you to help me with pronunciation. I probably butchered it, so I'm very sorry about that. Had a pick six along with Vladimir Vedorov had a pick six to go with him too. Val also had a blocked punt recovery for a touchdown too, and with that he had a second interception as well on the game. So a very busy day for Valera on Sunday. On the Giants side of things, usual center but turned now quarterback Christian White, who played due to Nathan Chapman's ejection at the end of the Mavs game. He missed the first half, so Christian stepped in. He connected with Ruin Austin for 2 passing touchdowns. Christian himself went in for a rushing touchdown of his own as well. A big win for the Rhinos at home, debuting their new camo jerseys, which secures also at least third spot, which means that they will be facing the Minotaurs. We do not know just yet if it's going to be in Castleknock or if it's going to be in Mullingar. What happens this Sunday will determine that. But the Minotaurs have the advantage, obviously, having the head-to-head record at the moment and having a 37-point advantage going into that game. But like I said, a good win for the Rhinos on the offense, defense contributing, special teams contributing as well. We're continuing to build week on week. The offense is really starting to home now, especially as you can see with the rushing stats as well. Obviously, Kevin is getting more comfortable as well in the QB position. He connected for 3 passing touchdowns in Wexford a couple of weeks ago. He obviously connected another one here with Richie this week. So we're happy where we are at the moment. Still, work to do. The Giants coming down. I believe they had 18, 19 on the day. Still put up the fight. Christian, I don't know. I'm going to give out to this Giants staff now for a while. What were they doing playing him center and not quarterback all this time? You know,
Yeah, it's a good
that man,
question.
that man could sling the ball, and he could absolutely run over defenders as well. He was a constant threat all day. Ruin was fantastic as well, both defensively and offensively. I think Ruin had a interception on the day too. So despite the scoreline, it looks quite one-sided. Props to the Giants, fought to the very end and to the very last snap. You know, they have a good core of really dedicated guys there. They just need to build on that. They just need to recruit this offseason, try and get these guys in, try and get some guys back from, last year that have not been able to play this year. I know they were speaking about obviously the Nate Wilson, who was their quarterback last year, is not able to play this year, hoping to come back next year. So that'll be a thing. He has competition on his hands now with Christian for sure. But good win for the Rhinos. Good to get momentum going into the playoffs. Giants, still one game left against the Eagles. They can have a big say on the Eagles where they're going to finish this year. Oh, it's not the last game, I should say. Sorry, you have the plate and the plate playoff. They are going to be defending their plate championship as well. But a good win for the Rhinos and for the Giants. Maybe have started to stumble into some sort of something going forward.
Yeah. I think the key takeaway is probably obviously because it's the Rhinos and the Giants. Sean McVay must have felt conflicted in who he should coach, given that he's coached both at some point this season. So he must have decided to not coach. Hence, you putting up 59 points and the Giants themselves putting up 20 points without any of the
man was a shadow of himself on Sunday. He got back just from a Stags do, I believe, the night before. So. He was not.
He's coaching the Stags now as well. Fuck me.
Hey, the man has a wide reach for sure.
Absolutely. But no, joking aside, it's great to see your offense perform so well. Again, kind of clicking now at this point of the season. This kind of stuff you want to see from your offense. So that's really positive for you. Your defense and special team scoring as well. So all facets of the game operating as you'd like it to when you're gearing up for a playoff run. So that's really great to see from a Rhinos side. I think that the result on Sunday would be a lot different to the result in your first match. I think the 37-0 win that Westmeath had, got to believe that game is going to be a closer one. And, I think you could certainly push them with the offense playing like that. On the Giants side of things, look, I mean, they've had a lot of guys throw passes this season, with obviously Nathan, the main signal caller. We've seen Tony McCluskey throwing passes. I think Jig McCoy as well, possibly. Kristen in there now. It's great to see. Look, I mean, he could sling it and he could run the ball. I've seen some clips and some highlights, and it's not like he was a slouch out there. They were just put him out there for the crack. He could certainly throw it. I'd say their offensive line probably suffered though, because that man is a wall when it comes to offensive line play. So it's a shame, but the Giants they've got such good athletes there, that in certain players there, where Christian shows it, like that's the sign of a real athlete when you can play multiple positions and they're even as wildly different as offensive line and QB are, and he can excel at both of them. Ruin as well, another great player, both sides of the ball. So I think this has obviously been a tough season, but you can clearly see that there's players there. There's the spine of a team there that can produce results for this team, and I think they just got to take everything that they've learned from this season, develop in the off season, kind of expand that squad out, see what sort of gems you can pick up on the North Coast there, and get this side back to winning ways. Like last season was a bit of an anomaly for the Giants, but you don't want it to sort of be that one great season that everyone who played remembers. 10 years from now, you want to build on that. You want to be pushing for playoffs at Division 1, and constantly progressing. So they'll be really disappointed with this season. They've obviously got one game left where I gotta think they're going to be going all out for a win there. It's their last chance at a win. They're the only winless team left in the AFI. I think it would be nothing against the Eagles, but I think it would be quite cool if they could get a win, and everyone will have at least been able to celebrate once coming off a pitch. So look, I mean, not much more to say. Game Sunday will be really interesting, and the Giants Eagles game, I think, as well, will also be one to look forward to in 2 weeks' time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, we'll move on then to the next game, and that will actually talk about the Eagles. The Antrim Stags 14, the Wexford Eagles 32. On the Stag side of things, Scott McLean connected with Owen Delergy and Joey Howe. for passing touchdowns. On the Eagles side of things, Terry Carey had 2 rushing touchdowns. Trevor Smith had a rushing touchdown and a pick 6 as well for the scoring on their side of things. Also, before we get into the game, just a quick shout out to Eagles head coach Ross McCooey, who unfortunately I believe suffered a pretty nasty concussion on Sunday. And had to be looked at. Hopefully he's doing all right. Alex, you were actually reffing the game, so I will hand over to you and tell me your thoughts of that match.
Yeah, it was a good game. The Eagles travelled up fairly light with only, I think, 17 starters, whereas the Stags boasted a squad of 30 plus on their side. So kind of expected a good battle. We know the Eagles are tough bruisers, and the Stags have firepower in that offense as well. The Eagles started out great, drove the ball down the field, punched in a score, were able to turn the ball over then on the next drive and score again to kind of put them ahead early. I think they went 24-0 up, so they were going for 2-point conversions before the Stags got a touchdown and kind of got themselves in the game. But they certainly never give up. The Stags kept fighting, had some good plays. They had sort of, at this point of the season as well, what you'll see is the kind of trick plays come out before the season runs out. They had a couple of trick plays that looked a bit fancy and certainly gained some yards. But in the end, the Eagles were probably just the more experienced team. They've clearly been playing together for a while. They were able to just, when things started to get a bit out of control, they were able to bring sort of calmness and experience around and just sort of calm everyone down, get back on the field, make a big play to turn the ball over on defense or get a load of yards on offense as well. So they were fairly light come the end of it. There was obviously the injury to Ross, and their QB as well got taken out as well late in the game by a big hit that sort of busted his chin open. So yeah, we wish them well, everyone in their recovery. They've got 2 weeks now before they're playing the Giants, and that's going to set up really interestingly. Can they pip that last playoff spot? Obviously, we'll get into the permutations later and whatever might happen with one of their games. But yeah, they're playing well, but they're kind of limping towards the finish line, I think, for a team who started out well. They're sort of we've seen it. We've both seen it before. A team with a lower squad number, as the season gets on, you're sort of you're grating and you're hanging in. Lads are playing injured. Look, there's no way Luke Fitzpatrick was 100% on Sunday. He just didn't look right. So I think that kind of thing, when you're limping to the finish line, it can be tough. But if they can make into the playoffs, I'm sure they'll be delighted with that. But yeah, they've got more games in the postseason anyway, given where they are. So they'd much rather it be in the Harp Bowl playoffs than in a plate, I'd imagine.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Yeah, it's when you have a team with such low numbers, it's not just the Eagles. It'd be the same at anyone. You can start off at 100 miles an hour, but unless you can have that constant rotation, the energy levels are going to be sapped pretty quickly on that, and you do run the risk of injury at that stage with bodies that are sort of wearing down a little bit, like you mentioned with the likes of Luke and hopefully now with Doran too. Hopefully he's going to be okay in a couple of weeks to face the Giants, because it is a long trip up there for the guys too. And if you're carrying an injury and being on that bus for 3-4 hours, it's not a good journey. It's not a good trip, and it's not comfortable at all. And then you have to go and play and get hit on both sides of the ball for a couple of hours is not ideal. Like you mentioned, yeah, both the teams have one more game left. The Stags are actually at your Mavericks on Sunday, and the Giants, like I mentioned, will entertain the Eagles on June the 22nd. The last game of the week is the Westmead Minotaurs 42, the Northwest Vipers 0. With this loss, the Vipers slim hopes of making the playoffs are done. They will not be playing hardball playoff football. They will still play, obviously, Shield playoff football. Fingers crossed in that. On the scoring side of things, Rafa Montero had 2 rushing touchdowns. He also had 2 receiving touchdowns, courtesy of quarterback Connor Brennan. Connor also connected with Damas Viles and Jack Walsh for passing touchdowns, and Jay Bruton had 6 extra points on the day. Like mentioned about the Rhinos scoring points and getting momentum coming into the playoffs, the same thing here for the Minotaurs. Now, although it's the second game in a row where they've had to play a different quarterback with Connor playing instead of Sean McCormick, I will see if that's going to be the same case this Sunday against the Rhinos and see what happens again, obviously, then in a couple of weeks in the playoffs itself. I know last weekend and I think this weekend too, Joe kitted up but wasn't required to play. The right decision. No point risking it in these sort of games. But like I mentioned, the Minotaurs, although they've had some stumbles this year offensively, I think about that game against the Giants where they were held very close. The Eagles gave them a scare earlier on as well in the season. They've really settled into things here now, and they look to, like I said, be gathering a lot of momentum heading into the hardball playoffs.
Yeah, definitely. The offense is humming, as we've said, of so many teams at this point of the season. This is a team, the Metros are a team who have had to have a quarterback swap and have handled it fairly well. Connor Brennan's come in and he sort of operated with relative ease. He certainly would have an existing relationship with some of his receivers, so good to see that they haven't really slowed down, because that you kind of hate to see it. But is there a third quarterback change coming? I saw a certain man from Mullingar throwing flags on Saturday in Newtown Hamilton for in the Clada League, and it looked like a whole lot was wrong with his shoulder. So we'll see now come Sunday. Is there a different man under centre, or even come a few more
July
weeks
the 5th.
time, July the 5th, because maybe he sits out another game, kits up. He's got his eligibility cleared anyways. He's on the roster sheet for 2 games. It doesn't matter if he takes snaps, so he'll be eligible for the playoffs anyway. So it'll be interesting to see how it develops there. I mean, they're as we've said, they're not doing too badly without him. That offense is really humming now. The passing game is singing. They've got the always reliable Jay Bruton there kicking extra points as well, which is always good to see. We never kick extra points anymore. It's so sad. We've attempted 2 all year, and that was because it was like from the 25-yard line due to penalties. I'm always begging Ty to let us kick more extra points, but it falls on deaf ears most of the time, which is fair enough.
Who's your is Jerry your kicker, isn't he?
Jerry's kicker. I'm a holder, which is why I'm so invested. Gotta show
I feel
off
sorry
my
for whoever
abilities.
has the. I feel sorry for who has the punt on your team, because I don't think he's seen the field this season.
Oh yeah. But that's big deck usually, so he's never far from the action. But no, I don't think we might have punted to think maybe against the Eagles in game 1 and never again, something like that. But yeah, look, the Minotaurs probably punter didn't get much use either on Sunday, or was that on Saturday? Anyway,
Sunday.
The Vipers. Disappointing end to the season. Obviously, they've got one more game left in them, but these sort of last 2 weeks where they've travelled down south, long journeys, and sort of gotten beaten 40 odds to nil. It's not what you want to kind of end the season with a bit of a sour taste, but I think the green shoots that we saw at the start of the season are something really positive to be built upon. So again, similar to the Giants, I think they'll reflect on what they've learned from this season and aim to be back next year, and stronger. I'm ready to take it on. I think there is still technically a possibility that they could get in the playoffs if they win. Is that right?
Let me have a look. I have the standings here in front of me.
If they beat,
So they are on 4 points. Yeah, if they beat the Crusaders in the last game, they'll also be on 6 points, the same as them. But and they will of course have the head to head. So yeah, I think they are still technically in with a show. It all depends on the rules around the Eagles as well, and if they win.
Is this probably a good point to segue into permutations
This
then?
could be the yes. This could. Why not? This is the perfect segue. You hopped on it there, and you brought us right to the point where we need to go. Alex, thank you very much for that. Yeah. So Crusaders 6, Eagles 4, despite having 3 wins, because it has gone down. I'd never want to say officially when it comes to this league because it's never actually officially declared, but through channels and back channels and hearing things from teams that the Eagles accepted the forfeit against your Mavericks for the game that was postponed Easter weekend. I believe that there was a date arranged
Well,
that you agreed to and the league agreed to, but the Eagles didn't.
I'm not fully privy to the details, not been on the club board anymore, but there was attempts to reschedule that we could fulfill and the league were happy with, but I think the Eagles couldn't fulfill it, whether that was lack of ground availability, ambulance players, I'm not sure what the reasons were, but I believe ultimately after attempting to refix it at several different matches that it has it's certainly gone down as our win. But whether or not it's considered a full forfeit is probably the bigger issue because it was initially off due to weather. So I don't know. The bylaws probably aren't that tight around it. So it's probably open for interpretation. And the way that it is interpreted is potentially very important.
Hugely, because if it is a forfeit in the way that we think it is, then that would mean no matter what happens at the end with the end of the season, would that make the Eagles ill-eligible? Can't speak English quite too well, because of their forfeit.
I'm not 100% sure on that either. I kind of have a vague memory that is it not 2 forfeits in a season that preclude you postseason. That's my memory of it. I could be wrong, but I believe it's 2 forfeits that preclude you from playing postseason football.
Yeah, and I'm going on this minus 2 points. I'm going on the basis as well from the guys at Domestic Game. Obviously, they are the official league affiliated podcast. They are the guys that put out the tables and have said that the Eagles are docked 2 points for this. So, that's my reasoning why we have it on UCP, why it's .ie, why it's like that at the moment. So hopefully we can get it cleared up before the 2 teams play, or the 3 teams I should say play, because the Vipers play Kildare on the 21st of June, then the following day the Giants face the Eagles. So with the Eagles having head-to-head over both of them, I still think at the moment if they win against the Giants, they're in anyway. If it is the case, like you mentioned, that you need 2 forfeits to, not be able to go into the playoffs. So if that's the case, then all they need to do is win and they're in. If they don't win, then like I said, the winner of Vipers and Kildare will go into that 4th position. If it's the case that the Eagles haven't been taken, haven't had their 2 points taken away, they would be on 6 right now. They would be ahead of the Crusaders on head-to-head, and they would only need a draw against the Giants to secure 4th spot, or the Vipers winning against the Crusaders and secure that too. So there is still a lot of permutations when it comes to that, and a little bit of cloudiness that we have to get through before we know for sure who is going to be facing the Loud Mavericks on the 5th of July.
Yeah, I've just done some quick bylaw digging. So it does say that if a team forfeits a game, if a cancelled game can't be rescheduled, it goes down as a forfeit for the team who's deemed at fault, um, which would be the exact case, and the team is deducted 1 point. So I guess technically they should
One
be on
point.
5 points.
5 points.
And then later
Yeah.
on, it does say in the event that any team fails to complete 2 or more regular season games, it's all its games will be regarded as 30-0 forfeits for the purposes of calculating points allowed in specific games. So there's no real definitive thing, but it would seem to suggest that they won't be precluded from playing in the postseason.
Okay.
But it's
Okay.
it's still not 100% clear. There's no real. It doesn't mention the weather, but it does say the team has deemed at fault. So I guess the Eagles will be at fault for
Hmm.
the pitch being wet. I don't know. It seems harsh,
Well,
but
maybe are they deemed at fault for not agreeing to
not
the
having all their members
reschedule?
stand on the pitch with umbrellas. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
it could be the reschedule thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. But in that case, then for the Eagles, no matter what, whether it's 1 point deducted, whether it's 2 points deducted, it's still winning in against the Giants. If they win against the Giants, they don't have to worry about other results because they will, like I mentioned, have the head to head over all the other teams, so it won't matter.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep. Perfect. Let's have a look at the games this weekend then coming our way. We'll get through them as quickly as we can. Kind of certain games now you're just fighting for position at this stage of the season, whether you're going to have a home playoff or you're going to have an away playoff. There are, like we mentioned, still some games um, to be decided whether teams make the playoffs or have to settle for the shield or the plate. We'll talk about the only game on Saturday this week, and that is the Belfast Trojans entertaining the UL Vikings at Derrimore. The Trojans are, of course, perfect this season with a 6-0 record. If they win this game, they secure first spot. They have secured a home playoff anyway, either way. So I guess in terms of when it comes to playoffs, first or second, kind of doesn't matter. But it's good to know that you finish first in the league to give you that little bump. For UL, like I mentioned, they had their season-defining game a couple of weeks ago against the Cowboys, which they went and won. You know, they're not, like I mentioned, they're not 100% out of the woods. They're not 100% safe. You know, if the Cowboys can win their last game and if they lose their last 2 games against the Trojans and the Rebels, they could still go down. Um, it all depends again, like I said, what happens with the Panthers too. We'll get into that as well. But you know, the game still means something for both teams.
Yeah, 100%. And as I said before, you always want to go up against the best that you can. I think, look, there'll be no doubting the money will be on the Trojans, and the Vikings will probably be going under there under a little illusion of the task at hand. But look, it's a game of football played by 11 men against 11 on the field at any one time. Anything can happen. Uh, for the Trojans, you think that it's a case of get your starters some reps out there, probably pull them early, let them just keep gaining momentum. Probably pull them early if you can get a lead up and get some reps into your other guys. For the Vikings, it's just going to be a case of be as annoying and frustrating as possible. Limit the Trojans' offense and see can you make a turnover, get an extra possession, and punch one in, and maybe make the good folk of Derrimore sweat a little bit. Go up and try and be the villains. The Trojans always do a great game day, and it's full of home fans on every game day. So go up and try and play the role of villain there, and maybe put a bit of tension into a Saturday there. But I think I think all money would be on a Trojans win at the end of the day.
Yeah. And is that your prediction? You going Trojans victory?
I shall.
Excellent. I'm going to agree with you on that sense. I think the Trojans will. It like you mentioned, if they can get a couple of scores up early, they can start rotating some guys in. Get some guys some valuable reps, because you never know what could happen when it comes to playoffs. You may be called upon, and to have those minutes in your legs could be vitally important when it comes to that. So I am going to go with a Trojans win on this one. On that one, Sunday's games. First one up is second place UCD. Welcome the South Dublin Panthers uh, uh, to UCD. Sorry, they are at home. Again, it's kind of similar. UCD they win this game, they secure a home playoff. The Panthers had their game a couple of weeks back against the Cowboys, also in their sort of mini battle to avoid relegation. They won that game. It's been all quiet on the Panther front these past few weeks, since the game, which can only be good news, because all the talk before the game obviously wasn't good. I'm expecting a pretty one-sided victory. UCD will not be happy with how they've come out of the exam break and how they've played, losing to the Trojans in a game that they were never really in, and they'll probably be the first to tell you that their first half performance just really took them out of it. The game against the Rebels, they didn't perform to their best either. A chance now to right the ship, the chance now to get the offense back on track after a couple of wobbly performances. And I fancy them to do it in this game, and probably have probably maybe at least a 3-score victory.
Yeah, it's probably a bad time to get UCD for the Panthers. As I said, they've not looked great, so they'll be eager to go out and sort of prove themselves as much as anyone else that they're still the offensive juggernaut that we've come to know of recent years. So I think they'll be looking to put up a big score here early. For the Panthers, again, it's similar to the Giants or to the Vikings. You're going to want to just go up there and be frustrate them on defense is really the key. If you can make them go, the entire first quarter and it's 0-0 even, that would be a huge psychological win for the Panthers, I think. I might really have UCD sweating. I think at the end of the day, I do think you're right. Like, the UCD will prevail ultimately, but I think the Panthers will have a clear goal to go out there with, and they've not. Look, they've not had a good season, and there has been talk swirling around, and they've suffered some injuries as well. But you'd like to think that they're still the core of lads there still want to fight and go out there and prove that they're not going anywhere. They want to silence that noise that's sort of grown around them. So you'd like to see a bit of fight from the Panthers come out against the UCD side, and look, we'll see what happens. But I'm with you. I reckon UCD win by probably 3 scores as well. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. The final game in the Premier Division to look at, and this is the big game of the weekend in the division, that is the Admirals and the Knights. We spoke about it earlier on in the show. We'll go over it again. Don't take us as the official league declaring this, but the Admirals look like they're locked in for playoffs. They can't. If the only thing that can't get them out of playoffs or can't put them in the playoffs is if they somehow forfeit this game, which probably won't happen. The Knights will feel that they have to win this game, because if they don't, they are relying on UL to do them a favor the following week against the Rebels. Because if the Rebels go and win, they'll take that 4th spot. So it is a do or die game here for the Belfast Knights down in Cork.
Yeah, absolutely. They have, as I said, their offense has sort of struggled of late, and we know how good this Admirals defense is when they played, even when they themselves were having their own struggles on offense. Their defense still showed up, limited the Knights to 11 points up in Belfast, and scored 2 safeties of their own in that game, the only points that the Admirals put together. So I think we know the Admirals defense is going to come and play, and we'll see what sort of Knights offense is there to combat it, because now these Admirals can score as well. We've seen it. They put together 55 points last week. So it won't be enough for the Knights to just be okay offensively. That was fine when they played back in March or April or whatever it was. It was fine for the offense to be mediocre that day and only score the once. They need to be firing to beat this Admiral side. I think it sets up for a cracking match as well, so it should be a good one. But if they fail to struggle early on, or sorry, fail to score early on the Knights, I wonder if a bit of doubt creeps in their head. Do they then go and switch QBs or what? I sort of think they'll sort of be asking questions themselves, and it could all come crumbling down quickly. So I think a key for that offense is to have a nice opening drive, maybe even scripted in, that you can just rip off, your best few plays, score early, set the tone for the day on your own sideline as much as it is for the opposite sideline, and lock in and prepare for a battle for all 4 quarters, because I think that's certainly what Cork are going to bring with a boosted home crowd for this family day. The Knights have really got to go down there with the right mentality. After a 4-hour bus journey as well, it's not easy. But if you want to be a playoff team, that's the sort of shit you have to do.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. And one aspect of the Cork team that we haven't hit on there so far in this show anyway is how well their defense is playing at the moment. Like we mentioned, they kept the Knights in the first game to 11 points. At stages the Knights have been scoring 40 a game. They kept the Rebels to 8 points. They they got a score kind of put on them in the second half against UCD. The Trojans only, I think, scored 16 points as well. So this defense is hard to break down. And I've mentioned it before, and I think I mentioned it when we talked about the Belfast Derby, looking ahead to it, where I worried that sort of a lack of production in the run game was going to be costly to the Knights, and I think it's going to be something similar here. They've had lads pitch in with rushing touchdowns here and there this year, but there hasn't been a consistent rushing game from what I would like to see. And I think with if it's Liam playing quarterback, if it's Zach playing quarterback, if the Cork defense are making it impossible for them to make yards in the air, I don't know if they'll be able to do it in the ground. So for this one, I'm going to go with an Admirals win on their family fun day at MTU to, seal, you could say, third spot, and then bring them up to Dublin to face UCD in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's a fair enough one. I'm going to go the opposite way. I'm going to say the Knights do it. The Knights sort of silence the doubters have been coming up recently, and again, because I'm such a fan of the kicking game, I'm going to say they do it by a field goal, a Marty Caskey field goal, because we know the Knights can kick. They've kicked for years. They can kick with ease. The Admirals did have a PAT in their last match, but on the whole for a season, I haven't seen them kick or attempt to kick many times. I remember distinctly in that last game that they could have rued not having a kick in game because they went for it on fourth twice or three times and didn't get it. So I'm going to say that the Knights win it on a field goal that is expertly held by whoever their holder is there. Because got to give some holder love. Very important operation. The long snapper ought to deserve a shout out. Very important operation. Long snapper, holder, and kicker. They all sink, and Marty Caskey's leg kicks the Knights into that third seed, and they get another crack at UCD. Where they didn't do
Although
too badly.
I do agree with you when it comes to the long snapper love as well, because after moving the center, I'm just about getting my head around it. Long snapping, no. See, this big belly gets in the way. I can't actually see the holder, so it's putting Ethan, who's our holder, putting his hand out to say you're like, I'm ready. Is like, oh, I can't see it, so I don't know if you're ready or not. But
big shoes
anyway,
to fill there. Big shoes to fill there. Long snapping in Castleknock. Barry Bolton, the Ireland long snapper, of course. hails from
Oh
those.
yeah,
That hallowed
it was
turf.
great. It was great on Sunday. Barry being the umpire and probably him critiquing every bad snapper made in his head uh, on Sunday. But also, I should mention, I don't know if it's Marty who's kicking at the moment for the Knights. I think
Oh
Dottie
no.
McShane is actually their full time field goal and extra point
Oh,
kicker.
my bad, Dahi.
Yeah. So
Apologies. I mean, they've
apologies
just
are
got so many kickers up there, you know, in Malone.
they train them almost as well as Tyke leader does anyway. So
Yes. Oh yeah.
um
At least they've got game
on,
experience, these lads.
yeah. On to Division One. We'll start off with the Rhinos welcoming the Westmead Minotaurs to Castleknock in the reverse of game one of the season, which, like I mentioned, Westmead came out on top by 37 points to nil. The Rhinos have a chance of making second to host the playoff game, but they would have to win by 38 points to do that. Because, like I mentioned, the Minotaurs have the previous head-to-head. It's kind of a weird situation. Quite similar, actually, Alex, to the situation we were in last year.
Wow.
Last
So
game of the year. Last game of the year, actually, whoever won that game hosted the playoff. You guys won that game. So we had to go we had to go up the following week again to play the semi-final in Loud. And but yeah, so it's weird how similar the sort of seasons are when it comes to these sort of things with the Rhinos this year. But it's a tough one because we probably would have talked about this last year when with this game type of game happened, where there's a chance. Obviously, both teams want a chance to host a playoff, but neither team wants to give away anything that they will, want to use again in the playoff semi-final against the same team. It's a hard balance to strike here.
yeah, like it's always a bit of a chess battle. I think that us at the Mavericks have lost it twice, at least in recent memory. We, as I said, we beat you guys 30-0 up in Dundalk last season, and then ended up losing the semi final like a week or two later. We also beat the Jets in 2022 by a couple of scores in the last game of the season, and then went on to lose to them in the bowl, Division Two bowl, the like 2 weeks later. So it doesn't always work out for the team that wins. So we certainly haven't figured it out. So I can't give you any advice, Dara. Maybe lose is the best advice I could give you. But look, it'll take, maybe let Sean coach this week. Let Sean coach on Sunday, and maybe try to take him out, before the semi final or something. Send him on another stag. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Again, be interesting to see if Joe kits up for the Minotaurs. Does that change things? Probably wouldn't risk him in this situation, but you never know. But yeah, and then how much do you reveal, or do you keep it the same? Because your team's going to be fair. Both teams probably slightly different, if not quite different, to the teams that played that first match. So it'll have much less of I think, a reflection on how you'll play in a semi-final. So yeah, I mean, it's a weird one from a coaching standpoint, not wanting to show too much,
Yeah.
I'm sure, but yeah, one that you guys will have to deal with this time, and thankfully I don't think we will have to deal with it this year.
No, no. It's a tough one. But who do you think is going to come out on top on Sunday?
I am going to say that the Minotaurs win on Sunday. Yeah, for the simple fact that they've been there, performing better on the field this year. If you want to say that, they've only lost the one game to us. And I'm going to say, yeah, the recency bias. They're the informed team. So I'm going to say they'll win it. But again, I don't think it actually matters who wins it at all this weekend.
Mm-hmm. Okay, last game of the weekend, and that is the it's yourselves. Sorry, the Stags entertaining. It's up in New Forge, isn't it?
Tis New
Yeah, the
Forge.
Stags are
Lovely
entertaining
venue.
the Mavericks in New Forge. One place I haven't gotten to play yet. Hopefully, I get
Really?
to do that next year. Yeah, I've never got to play in New Forge.
Nah, hopefully you don't
Never.
get to do it next year. She'll be up in the SBC with the big boys, you know.
Jeez, look at you there. Um, yeah, so we will see the Stags finishing their inaugural season in the AFI. You know, touch woods. They would have played. That means they would have played every game this season, which is a real progress for them. Which is what they set out at the start of the year. For the Mavericks, with the one seed already locked up in place, you know, a chance for guys maybe if coaches want to get some rotation going, a chance for guys to get some more minutes under their belt ahead of playoffs. Um, but yeah, so on the Stag side of things first there, Alex, good for them to get through all the games. Hopefully, maybe they can get into a game or maybe two when it comes to the plate, and maybe they can make it to a play final. You never know, but a good first season by all accounts for the team.
Yeah, 100%. You get a win in your first season is not something that every team has the luxury of. So like that's great, a great start, something to build off. I I was referencing their game this weekend, so spoke to plenty of Stags, and they're looking forward to our visit. I think they know themselves it's going to be a tough matchup, but they look that again. That's why you're playing football to play against the best, as we said of. Teams that go up to the SBC, you want to play against the best, and test yourself against them and learn what you can. So I'd imagine that's what they're planning to do on Sunday, and also take a fair crack at us, and try put up some points of their own. I'm sure that's going to be a key one on their agenda as well. Again, it's always going to be try and play the spoiler, upset the apple cart, and be that sort of outlier of a team that um, the one team to beat us in the regular season. They're the only one left with that chance. So yeah, I'm looking forward to a good game and seeing some of the faces up there. So know a few of the lads. They're all decent lads. As I said, New Forge is a great spot to play. Um, so I'll be looking forward to kitting up and playing on Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Second week in New Forge in a row there after reffing last week too. So
Yeah,
it's not as if you're going to be a stranger to the ground for sure. Yeah, I'm going to go with a Mavericks win in this game. Pretty simple. Straightforward victory for the guys. In that sense, I hope the Stags are able to at least try and get a few stops defense, move the ball offense. Maybe a couple of scores here and there. Scott McLean has been able to contribute with a good few passing touchdowns this year when he's needed to. So hopefully he can continue that at the weekend. But that's it. That's your show, folks. That's your lot. We thank you for tuning in this evening on this slightly later edition of AFI Weekly. If before we go, make sure you head to ucp.ie for the latest tables, results. All the shows are there too. Head to our socials at Undercenter Pod. That's where you'll get up to date stuff when it comes to the weekend. Like you said, it's Brennan's AFI Weekly coming your way this weekend with score updates, but it won't be from me or won't be from Alex as we'll be busy playing. So hopefully maybe Fiona or Reen is able to help out a little bit on that. Alex, as always, thank you, sir.
you're most welcome. Thank you very much.
And until next week, stay safe and we will see you soon.
Peace.